was actually former Senator Mark Forbes, right? Former
Right.
Speaker Mark Forbes. And then Joe Sir jumped in right when we went to commercial break, and he goes, no, you remember what Governor Camacho's thing was from Guam to Guahan.
Right. And I remember at the time it was like I don't think we realized how, because if you look back at it and you kind of like gauge where we are now, like with the culture and the history and the Renaissance and all that, that was just one of those things I think was kind of pivotal, where we went to, like I said, calling ourselves by what others called us, to calling ourselves or what we called it our Guahan. So it's big. 8:26. Good morning. It's February 19th, the year of our Lord 2021, on a Friday. Let's head into the Zoom room, the KUAM News Zoom room, where we have the director of Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, Therese Arriola, standing by. Good morning, Therese.
Good morning, Mananasi Jules. Good morning, everyone. How are you?
We're doing good. Just wanted to bring you on for an update, but because we've been talking about just addiction and all the issues with crystal meth on the island, so we kind of wanted to bring you on, and we could just start there about treatment programs, options that are available through Jibwick.
Yep. Thank you very much, Chris.
Of course.
And thank you, everybody. Yes, Guam Behavioral Health is your state mental health and behavioral health agency. And so those who find themselves at the mercy, or if you will, through of addiction, whether it's alcohol or any type of drug, Guam Behavioral Health is here to help you. Let's start with everyone should have our crisis hotline number on their refrigerator, on their cell phone, and that's 647-8833, 647-8833. And so if you find yourself needing to talk to anybody about addiction or depression or anxiety or anything really that your physician, your doctor would not be the right person to go to, Guam Behavioral Health is probably the right agency to talk to. With regards, because we are your state drug agency, we do have programs. Our drug and alcohol branch is called New Beginnings. Many of you have heard it been called that. So when they say New Beginnings, that's Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center's drug and alcohol branch. And we have a wonderful group of folks, professionals, that is there to serve you. We have partners with NGOs. You do have to go through Guam Behavioral Health, go through intake, get assessed, be determined that truly you are in need of certain level of services, and be referred to our New Beginning program, who will help you navigate the next steps. But we do have contractual agreements because we can't do it alone. And there are nonprofit organizations out there that do it well, like Sanctuary for Teens, like Oasis for Women, and Salvation Army for Men. And so we have three major nonprofit organizations that partner with us. We have contractual agreements to assist us in the residential recovery program. And so, and in addition to that, because drug and alcohol addiction and recovery, more especially, is a major priority for the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration, you know that we've been working on several initiatives. For example, the 3.7 detox unit that we've been talking about quite a bit should have been open in 2020, but because of COVID has delayed several recruitment processes. And so we are looking forward to that ribbon cutting and that grand opening for the 3.7 detox unit at the Guam Behavioral Health main facility in Tamuning, late March, early April. I mean, we're at the last, I would say 90% of what we need to get done. And a lot of that is recruitment delays. One of the major recruitments is coming from off island. And so that is an issue that COVID has really pushed
Complicated,
back,
right?
if you will.
So who are you,
Yeah.
Therese? Who's getting recruited from off island that's going to be able to assist with this detox unit?
Well, 3.7 is a detox unit, and so there needs to be a medical personnel, if you will. It's not just psychiatric. And so we have coming in an advanced practitioner registered nurse who will be able to give out prescription drugs for the detox unit. That is, it doesn't sound like it's a difficult recruitment, but it really is at this time. It's very difficult. And so we're about, it's going to be on the 3rd floor of the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. Guam Behavioral Health had the unit before, the detox unit, but I can tell you that it's been closed since Pang Sangwa. Now, Pang Sangwa was 2002,
Right.
2002.
Leche.
So we do the math, it's about 19 years ago,
Right.
20 years ago that Guam has not had this kind of service. And it's a need, because once you determine that you really need medically assisted detoxing services, then from there, you can go into residential or educational drug and alcohol services, depending on the level of care you need. And then we work with our NGOs.
Right.
We refer out to our NGOs.
So, Therese, you think, given the widespread prevalence of meth addiction, that most people who are trying to check into this 3.7 unit, or most of the people who are just trying to get clean in general, do you think that most of them need medically assisted
Absolutely.
detox treatment?
Absolutely. You can't go cold turkey. Your body will medically react. And so, the will to recovery is a personal choice. We cannot do it for our loved ones. We can't do it for our children. We can't do it for our husbands and wives and brothers and sisters. They personally need to be convinced that they want to be clean, and they need to do it from themselves. I've seen too many times, and at a personal level, people who desire to beat this addiction, but do it for other reasons, whether it's their children or their family members. But it really needs to come from their soul and wanting and believing that they can do it. And so that is why it is not uncommon when you see people who have the desire to get cleaned up and to have a new path, but then they slip again. And by the way, when it comes to drug addiction or alcohol addiction, for that matter, the notion of family members that let's put them in a program and then they'll be completely fixed,
right,
and we don't have to deal with this again is unfortunately a wrong thought. These are our brothers and sisters, our children, our family members who are like us, human beings. They will slip, they will make mistakes. But the difference is if they go into a recovery program that they have chosen to go through, is that they will have the skill set to start all over again, because every minute, every day is a new day, is a restart button for them. And so that's the big difference of not just thinking they can do it themselves and going through a program. They will have the skill set and to start all over again. And again, it could be every day, it could be, months of sobriety, and then all of a sudden they slip for whatever reason, but that's okay. What matters is, and the saying, what matters is that you get up and you try again.
Right.
And so it's the reset that matters. And as a community, we need to encourage that. We cannot judge that what happened to you, you went into recovery and then all of a sudden you're like this again. We can't do that. You just say, it's okay, forgive yourself, you know what you need to do.
Yeah.
Let's get back on track.
Yeah, man, Teresa, just it's just so tragic when you see like
Loved ones.
somebody in the news, even people were in the news for they get pulled over, whatever. And then sometimes I'll just Google um, to see if they have any priors, and then it's the same people who were just getting arrested throughout the years. I mean, I was just looking at a case. A guy who was arrested yesterday was arrested back in 2012 for pretty much the same thing with crystal meth. But I wanted to share just a personal story. My mom's brother, and we lived together. He was just very addicted to crystal meth and ice. And I'm talking about going back to the 90s, like going back to like the
So it's been
Cavacan.
decades.
Right.
It's been decades.
Right. And so he was, I mean, major issues with the family, and it was the same thing. And which is why this is, with the meth and addiction and the enforcement and all that, that's why it hits so close to me, is because I've lived with it, you know what I mean? Right in front of my face.
Right.
And, it transforms family into people you love, from people you love into people that you just can't stand. And a lot of times, they're stealing. And then
They're stealing from your home.
Right. Yeah.
Their home.
And it's just so in our culture, because we don't want to like be confrontational a lot of times. I can't even remember how many times my uncle would steal something and we would just pretend like it just got lost, because it was way easier than having to confront him about, hey, you stole these earrings, or hey, you stole that, so you could swap it to go get whatever. But anyway, it sounds like it's going to be a bad story. But what ended up happening was, after so many years, you're right, decades of addiction, my uncle had a moment where he met someone that he was very fortunate to meet, a wonderful woman. And I remember he sat down and he talked with me, and he was like, Chris, I don't know what to do, because I feel like this woman is too good for me. And if she knows that, I'm addicted to meth, that I'm, smoking ice, I feel like I'm going to lose her. So I said, Uncle Greg, this woman's a good woman. Just come clean and tell her. And so that's what he did. And so this woman and my mom's brother, they went through the whole process. They went to the doctor. They did exactly what you're talking about with the medically assisted detoxing. I think he was on steroids or something. And so he ended up getting clean. And then they, and she's like a civil service employee, so they get stationed in different parts of the world.
Right, of the world.
And so he's been clean ever since. And I just look at him, and I know that people out here,
it's
can do
Chris, your story is, just change the name,
right,
and it could be anybody's family story.
Yeah.
But this woman came into your uncle's life as an angel, really, because it led him to realize that he needed to be clean. I'm a strong believer that people pass through your life, whether temporarily or permanently, for a reason. There's a reason why you and I are talking. There's a reason why I'm going to be meeting somebody later on this afternoon that maybe I've never met at the grocery store and say hi to. I mean, I think of things like, you're going to the grocery store and a simple wave of hi could stop somebody's suicide attempt.
right.
So, I'm a strong believer that people come into your lives for a reason. And this woman was a good influence, but your uncle made that decision to become clean, went through whatever program he needed to be. And so I say to people that say it's too hard, yeah, it's hard, but there's a million stories true of success. So you are no different, but it's every day. And I'm sure your uncle has had days where he felt like slipping, or maybe slipped, but the following day got up and went back on the right path. We're human beings, so that's expected. But I just want to say, when you talked about the family, it is important that the family, they say the drug addiction does not just hurt the person who takes drugs. And it's so true, because look at your story. It affected your family. You had to pretend like it was stolen. So because it's too difficult and too painful to think, yes, my uncle is stealing from us. That's too painful for a family to accept. So it's better to say, oh no, I don't know, maybe it wasn't there.
Right.
Or or I don't know, maybe somebody else took it. Who was here this weekend?
Or I
You
can't
know,
remember where I put it. Oh man.
or I can't remember where I put it. Maybe I just misplaced it.
Yeah, yeah.
But let me just talk a little bit about family.
Right.
Families who have a loved one, especially if they're living with them, it is not just, it's just important for family members to seek professional help on how to support their loved one who is going through recovery. Because to think, and families have the best intentions, trust me, how you're loving them today, you can love them tomorrow the same way. No, the person that comes out of recovery is a totally different person. The fact of the matter is, it's not a memory erase. They didn't erase the fact that they took drugs for decades or drank their life away for decades. They're dealing with that. And so my greatest advice to family members is seek your own kind of counseling on how to properly love and assist and support your loved one that's going through recovery. Because the household has to change. The mindset of the house has to change. Or else your loved one will be going back to the same kind of triggers. So, that saying of, drug addiction really affects the whole family.
Right.
That's not just a saying. It's very true.
Reality. Therese, let me
It's
ask
reality.
you, how difficult is it? Because I see it when people slip. Part of what it is that they go through the process, they take the steps, some get into these programs, they get clean, and then they're right back out
They
here
go
again.
over it over and over again. I know
Right.
people who've gone through programs over like 2-3 times.
Yeah. But a lot of it is because when you mention triggers, they go out and they might be clean, but then they're seeing the same people that they used to,
Right.
smoke with or
The
whatever.
friends, the family, the environment. That's right. And so you see, it is not uncommon to see repeat people go through recovery programs. And that's probably because they still need more intensive help. But it's multi-layer, okay? It's not just the recovery program and maybe staying in a residential treatment home for months at a time, because it's easy to feel empowered and it's easy to feel clean and on the right path when you're in a home that's completely focused on that. Everybody in the home is completely focused about uplifting your spirit. We can do this, going through the lessons, going through the counseling, going through the sessions. But when they leave, that's why it's not also uncommon for people to be fearful of leaving the residential home, because they know that it's not that kind of support, 100% kind of support that they've been living in for months through the recovery residential program that they're in it's not going to be there. So that is why you sometimes see people go through recovery programs more than once, because they're not quite ready. But it's multi-layer. It's not just the program. They have to continue with their sessions with their counselors. They have to continue with making the right choices. Like you said, if there's certain groups of people that you shouldn't be hanging out with because maybe they're doing drugs or maybe their friends are doing drugs, you need to change your way of life. I know people who completely left Guam because of that.
Right.
I mean, literally left Guam and have been living a sober, productive, very successful life somewhere else. Why did they leave Guam? Because they didn't know, and it was too much around them, that they chose life over this. And so, yes, changes need to happen. You have to change your ways. That is what I mean by the environment needs to change. Not only does the person in recovery need to make certain choices. I don't want to hang out with those certain friends. Those family members, we are never going to that party, any party they go to. And that's okay, because your life is more important than any party. And if your friends are really your friends, they will understand. They will completely understand why. Oh, I invite you to a party, but you didn't come. Well, why do you think? Because there's too much alcohol and they're in recovery. If you're a friend, you will really understand why certain friends don't go to your parties or don't come to your house anymore.
Right.
Now, if they don't understand it, then they might not be your friend, and then you can reassess that.
Therese,
So,
you know, they say
yeah.
the first thing you got to do is admit that you have a problem. So, with Guam's drug problem, and when we admit that we do have one, how bad is it to you from what you see?
Um, yes. First of all, admitting to yourself is really the key, right? Because until you admit that you need help, it's not the drug problem or the alcohol problem. People tend to say that easily, more easy than ever. I can tell you I have a drug problem. I can tell you I have a drinking problem. It is not that. It's the acceptance that you need help and you can't do it alone. That's the more difficult thing. And seeking that help. Because a lot of people tell themselves, I know I have a drug problem, but I can do it on my own. I know I have a drinking problem, I can do it on my own. But the trigger is, if you can, then you would have already. No person wants to be in this dark hole. And so it's the need to admit that you need help that's more difficult than the admission that they have a problem. A lot of people admit they have problems, but they, whatever, pride, personal pride, family embarrassment to seek help, is a lot of the problems, not wanting to embarrass their family members because they have to check in
Right.
into a program or not, it's the need to say, I have a drug or alcohol problem. I know it, but I can't do it alone. That's the hardest part, I think, for people. But this is what I say to people, because I have friends that are in this situation. You never were alone to begin with, and as human beings, we're not here in this planet to navigate it alone anyway. So whether you're in addiction or not addiction, we as human beings have problems all the time. It could be financial problems, familial problems, not getting along with your children, not, navigating, you're not really happy at work, whatever it is. We've never been meant to navigate our lives alone. We have always been, we are here to not only help each other, but to guide each other through this journey. And so when people get wrapped up in, I'm either too embarrassed to seek help, or my pride is to, I can't seek help, I need to do this alone, I can do it alone. It's a very false sense of the way of life, the way it should be.
Right.
We all need help.
Right. Therese, when you talk about admitting that you have a problem, right? So for those out there who admit that they have a problem, do you feel that the government is doing enough to help them? Can we do more?
There's always room for improvement, always. And one of those things that we need to do as a community is stop closing a blind eye to certain things. For example, you mentioned your uncle's situation. That is a scenario that is so common in many homes. So one of the things that we need to do as a community is to admit that if I see a family member who is drowning, like spiraling down in their life, could be alcohol, could be drugs, or just could be depression, that you need to step in and try to talk to them to get the help they need. Sometimes it's called tough love. You know, instead of closing a blind eye and pretending, we need to look at them in their face in the most loving and compassionate way and say, you need help. And the thing you think is a secret is no longer a secret. Everybody knows you're taking drugs.
Right. So
Everybody
Therese,
knows you're in
Therese,
trouble.
if I admit I have a drug problem, I need help, and I call the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, what help can you provide me?
You can actually come to the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. We've been open. We've never closed, even through the pandemic. We can get an assessment, immediate assessment that day, and you'll be referred to, if it's a drug and alcohol, you know, because, you know, there's depression for other help that we give. Then you will be referred to New Beginnings, and they will immediately determine what level of care you need. If, you know, come late March, early April when detox opens, if you qualify for the detox, you would be admitted to the detox and be on your way to recovery or to the steps of recovery. If you don't need detox level, then you will be referred to New Beginnings and be determined whether you are just getting educational, outpatient, or residential recovery. So there's some steps, levels of recovery programs. And that can happen today. Like Guam Behavioral Health takes walk-ins. I get calls, I'm not joking, I get calls every day from close family, friends, even second, third degree. My cousin, my sister needs help. The first thing I tell them is to bring them up to Guam Behavioral Health now. But make sure that they're doing it, they have to be willing. You know, again, as family members, we tend to say, okay, I'm gonna bring my child because I know for a fact they have a drug problem. But it really needs to be the child or the person's choice. Now, children are a little bit different because we have jurisdiction over children, family, parents do. You can bring your child in. But when it comes to adults, it's really tricky because it's tricky when I say, because I can't bring my husband or my sister or brother who is over 18 and drag their butts up to Guam Behavioral Health and say, you know, Guam Behavioral Health, this is my sister, my brother. She's been taking ice for 5 years. She needs help. It's not going to work unless the sister or the brother admits and wants and asks for it themselves. Because what's going to happen is these people are going to walk through the program, take the time for social workers, counselors to talk to them, but then leave the program. But, and that's okay. I'm just saying that's what we do, but we would like to see people who are convinced that they need help themselves, right? We have a tendency as because we're a loving community to want to drag our family members in who are adults, but it needs to come from them. They need to say, okay, mom, I need help. Please take me there or find me help. And all you have to do is go to Guam Behavioral Health as a walk-in, and that's what you tell them.
So do you take
No.
walk-ins? How many walk-ins do you get in a week?
You're asking me, a lot. A week. In a day we can have anywhere between 15 to 20. It just depends. You know, it fluctuates, you know. It really just depends because everybody comes to light in different times of their life, right? So just so happens, an example would be perhaps it's a new year and people want to say, you know, for the new year, I'm going to go get help. So kind of similar to physical, you know, like exercising.
Right.
There's a real big intake in the beginning of the year because they want to really transform their lives. I'm not saying, I don't have the stats in front of me, but we get we get a lot of walk-ins. And again, it's not just for drug or alcohol addiction. We get a lot of walk-ins that say, you know, I feel like I've been living in this darkness of depression. anxiety. And I've just realized, what am I doing trying to navigate this on my own? Let me go get help. I tell people all the time, you have nobody has a problem going to the, your physician, right? If you have a cold or you broke an arm, this kind of help is a different kind of help. If there's anything bothering you in your heart or in your mind, that's what Guam Behavioral Health is all about. It's your heart and your mind, right? And so if we don't have problems going to Dr. So-and-so because, I sprained my arm, or I fell and my hip hurts, or I sprained my ankle, or broke my bone, people need to realize that this is just a different type of doctor, a different kind of help. And there should be no, the stigma of getting mental or behavioral health assistance should not be there. We are all human beings. Show me one person who doesn't have a problem, and I'm going to tell you that person's a robot. We all have hearts, we all have problems. Life is not easy for everybody. You might think somebody else's life is easier than yours, but they just have different types of problems, And so we're here to help navigate each other through this thing called life. And so just like what you folks are doing, asking me to come on so that I can share with people of Guam how they can get help. You have a role, I have a role, everybody has a role. Family members have a role to get our family members and our friends the help they need. And so,
Right.
again,
and you talk
is
about
just
admitting,
here
you have to admit that you have a problem. And I just wanted to just hear a little bit more. Does the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center have a problem with providing enough help to people, whether it be addiction issues or mental health issues? Do you guys have a problem in helping people, having enough resources to help these people fight the problems that they're having?
Well, thank you. Okay, I'll talk about staffing then. In general, I always have money. The money is not the problem. I have money in my budget today to hire 2 more psychiatrists. But there's just nobody fighting. I mean, we're getting interviews. We're taking interviews from off island. We're hoping psychiatrists, it's just a small pool of psychiatrists on island. And we probably have, we have 3 right now. I would like another 2 at least, but we're managing. Social workers, there's a need of social workers, counselors. These are fields that are so much needed. It's interesting because Monday I have a meeting that the Lieutenant Governor has pulled together. Lieutenant Governor Josh has pulled together the social work college dean, Dr. Natividad, as well as Dr. Trish Lazama. We're trying to figure out where are the graduates, because Guam Behavioral Health and I can say my sister health agency, Public Health, are having a hard time finding these degree holding folks. Where are they? I keep hearing that they're not all, now if they're all employed, that's one thing, but I keep hearing that they're not. So where are they? Why are they not applying? Why are they not, did they move off island? So actually Monday, the Lieutenant Governor has pulled a meeting together to figure out where is this gap between graduating and getting them gainfully employed in the government agencies that desperately need them and have the money to hire them. So yeah, there's a gap there. I'm not sure. I know a lot, I've heard that some folks graduated in May, and because they have children, the timing was right where they were able to stay home and not get employed yet, seek employment. Now that we're going back into a more I guess, face to face, and maybe, thank goodness, and we're so blessed, you guys. Let me tell you, when you look at the national news, how well we're doing as a community compared to the state side. We, hopefully when school gets back, maybe these folks who are staying home and haven't sought jobs will now be available to be hired. But we'll find out Monday. We have a meeting with the social work leads up at the University of Guam, Dr. Natividad and Dr. Lazama, to say, where are your graduates? We want to hire them. We're going to have another meeting with the counseling right after that. Because I can't believe that everybody who has degrees have jobs. Where are they?
Yeah.
So yeah, when you talk about, does Guam Behavioral Health have the resources? Money is not a problem. We have the money to hire counselors, social workers, and psychiatrists and psychologists. It's almost like we're competing with the world. I'm not sure what's going on.
Therese,
We'll find out.
I know you talked
Thanks,
about
Therese.
the walk-ins, but how many court-ordered recovery clients do you get? Is there a lot?
Well, right now, I can tell you, because I get the census every morning, 7 o'clock. I can tell you that the inpatient census right now for court order, I have 9 in my house right now. It just depends. It depends on the courts and their referrals. But we have 9 right now in-house as of this morning. Which leads to another thing that Guam Behavioral Health is doing. So last summer, Governor Liu, in consultation with Joe Carbolito, the Director of Department of Correction, and myself, and the Lieutenant Governor, we recognize that there is a major gap in services when it comes to the prison population, especially when drug and alcohol addiction. So the governor last summer wrote an executive order, and that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. That was Jason. He was just talking.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go
okay.
ahead.
It's okay. So last summer, the executive order came out that mandated Guam Behavioral Health to take over the mental health and behavioral services at the Department of Correction. People might think, oh, why was that necessary? Well, because in the past, the Department of Correction had its small unit, a small unit of mental health professionals. But we recognize that the Department of Correction is not in the business of mental health and behavioral health services. They're in the business of safety and of the prisoners. And so the best thing to do is partner up with the people who are the subject experts for that. So Guam Behavioral Health, we're in the process right now, and it could be next week, sometime next week or early March, that we're going to be writing the MOU. That executive order led to an MOU of an agreement between Department of Correction and Guam Behavioral Health. And soon after that, so this summer, Guam Behavioral Health is going to be at Department of Correction. That is another thing we need to build that cohort of professionals that services them. Because right now, I can tell you, other than the program called RSAT, which happens at the tail end of someone's sentence, if they even qualify for that program, there are no drug and alcohol programs, groups being offered to the 80% of prisoners who are in there because of drug or alcohol crimes. And so they're sitting there serving their sentence, but gaining no skills to get out of this world when this drug or alcohol addiction world when they get out. There's only a handful of lifers at the Department of Correction. The rest of them will serve their sentence and leave.
And then they'll come back.
And they'll come back if they don't get the right kind of services to change their life. So we got together and we said, you know, this is crazy. What do we do? What's missing? And what's missing is proper program in the Department of Correction for that captive audience that was put in jail because of either, you know, something with drug related or alcohol related. And they need to go through programs.
Mm-hmm.
They need to go through education. They need to go through groups.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get the skills and the mindset that they can get out of this so that when they eventually serve their time, they can go out in the community and make better choices. Absent those programs, they're going to go back to what they know.
You
Again,
said
we talk about environment of change.
right. You said the executive order was signed last summer, and the MOU is just going to be signed this
Right.
next week. What
Because
took so long?
Oh, it's actually, it could be longer if we didn't. What took so long is we need to establish policy. Guam Behavioral Health doesn't know how to be in a correctional facility. So we hired through our grants, with the federal grants, we brought in a consultant who specifically does this, helps behavioral and mental health agencies establish and stand up programs in a correctional facility. Because it's not as easy as people think. Oh, you know, okay, Guam Behavioral Health, just go in there. It's a different culture in the correctional facility. And our culture that we're accustomed to at, you know, the Tamuning facility is not the culture at Department of Correction. There's a whole dynamic of movement. Like, you don't move, you just don't move. I mean, everything is safety issue, safety first, and then programming, right? So we brought in a national consultant, which we are so blessed to have brought in. We were able to pay with it. Our SAMHSA funder, our federal funders approved it. We brought her in. Her name is Dr. Deborah Pinels. If you look her up, she is a hot shot in this arena. And she is a consultant to the consultants of the national bodies that advise Congress.
Wow.
So we are very blessed to have been able to get her. We were able to connect with her because Guam Behavioral Health belongs to some national bodies. You know, I attend a lot of meetings. These times, nowadays, the last year, it's been a lot of virtual meetings. But the National Association of State Mental Health Program Directors, NASADAD, which is the National, you know, Alcohol and Drug National Associations. I belong to all these because of Guam Behavioral Health. We were able to connect. I was able to connect with the resources of Dr. Pinels through that. And she's been working with us for months to stand up the program. We needed to draw up policies because there were no policies in place. We needed to draw up a budget. We're doing cross-sectioning, crosswalk. We're looking at data. What are the population over there? What are their needs? And so we're still doing it. We have weekly meetings with her. But we're at the point, she even helped us draft the MOU. We saw the MOU in our side of Guam Behavioral Health side. We probably reviewed it throughout our department for the month of November. I'm sorry, October, November. When November, I was ready to transmit it to Department of Corrections, my colleagues there for their review, their internal review. However, if you recall what happened in November and December, Department of Correction had a lockdown because they had a major outbreak. So guess what? That just put a stop to that effort. I understood Joe and Bob, they just couldn't deal with anything else other than the immediate crisis, which is to contain the COVID spread in the prison. So November and December was out. January came around. We started talking again. We're now in February.
Right on.
And they're doing their review. We were supposed to have we're scheduled to have a joint meeting, joint department meeting today, but we needed to postpone it. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's scheduled for Tuesday. Because the meeting of the minds. Now, I'm just going to say, change is difficult for people. So some at the Department of Correction might think that we're coming in to judge, but there's no judgment here. We're coming in to just do work. But change is difficult. And so, having to align policies and making sure that we don't step on each other's toes. We are CARF accredited, so we have a lot of standards that we go through. We go through the standard curriculum of CARF and make sure that there's a whole section in the CARF accreditation of standing up behavioral health services in a correctional facility. So that's a whole new source of standards that we needed to be familiar with, because we're not familiar with it last year. So that's why it kind of took a bit long. That's the long.
Thank you for that very detailed answer, Therese.
But by any chance, is your agency working with GURA on any upcoming projects? Because I think one of our reporters was listening in on one of the GURA board meetings, and they made mention about, I think, some sort of facility or something that might be built.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up. That's one of the we have a lot of large projects going on, right? I talked about 3.7 opening soon. There's two large projects that GORA is assisting us with. Governor Leon Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenoro has committed and has identified DOI funding for the building for the permanent house and the permanent building of New Beginnings. As important as drug and alcohol recovery is, the department New Beginnings division or unit, a branch, is renting because there's just no space for it in the main facility. As a sign of commitment by this administration, we are building a house, a real 3-story building. So if you've been to Guam Behavioral Health, you know that building picture behind me?
Yeah.
And you look to the left, there's this huge pavilion. I don't know if you walk around, maybe. That is the future site of the 3-story New Beginnings building. And that is expected to ground break this year, towards the end of the year. That's the commitment of this administration, that recovery of drug and alcohol is real, their commitment. So that's one project. And GORA, I'll tie in the GORA section there. And GORA is assisting us with the A&E conceptual cost estimate. So they're doing some technical assistance, helping us. As sister agencies in the government, they're helping us instead of us having to go out and hire an A&E firm. They have the capacity in-house right now. They have a wonderful engineering lead, Sonny Perez, and his team, who has been up at Tamooning, assessing, and we're actually expecting the conceptual report anytime now. I mean, when I say anytime, it could be today or early next week, that anytime now. So thanks to GORA's technical assistance, they're helping us in the New Beginnings construction building A&E concept cost estimate.
All right.
On a second project tied into drug and alcohol recovery, Department of Youth Affairs, bless her heart, Lonnie Brennan, has a facility in Talafofo, and it's called Cottage Homes. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's a 22-acre, beautiful, serene property, gated, 3 large buildings that was built, I'm not sure, I think in the 2000s, that DYA has not used in years.
Wow.
When the Lieutenant Governor, Josh Tenorio, myself, and DYA have standing weekly meetings. When we were looking at the need of what is it going to take to curb this drug addiction from youth to adult, right? Because what happens at DYA, if we don't reform and we rehabilitate, it will lead to more adult problems. So there is a connection. So the Lieutenant Governor came up with, we need to assess government resources and buildings that are either underutilized or not utilized at all. DYA actually said, I have cottage homes that DYA had not used for years prior to the administration coming in. I said, well, I can take it because that can be bed expansion. So thus were born the recovery bed expansion program. And that is to identify government resources that are either underutilized or not utilized at all and transform them into more recovery beds so that more folks can get help in recovery. It's a beautiful 22-acre gated community with 3 beautiful buildings that, because of years of not being used, of course, they needs to be renovated. So tying in GURA again, thanks to Ray Topashnia and the GURA engineering team, they have agreed to do a cost estimate of recovery, of renovation. That is expected either today or early next week, the same time as the New Beginnings Building concept report. There has been a commitment by the front office to find the money to do the renovations. The renovations are not, I mean, I can't even estimate, maybe less than $500,000, which, really is a drop in the bucket when you think of all the people we can help. I'm not sure what it is, but it's beautiful, 3 buildings that are meant for residential, for children, but it's never used. But it wasn't built for kids. It's not like a kid-sized rooms or anything. So it can easily be transformed into adult recovery beds. So we're really excited about that, and we thank GURA for assisting us technically and more importantly, I want to thank DYA for letting that resource go and not holding. Sometimes we tend to hold things just to own, right? But Lonnie knows, she's been from the court. She knows we need to help people so that they can stop going through the court system and stop ending up at DOC. Right? She knows. Recovery, the whole nation is on this. It's not incarceration, it's treatment. We are in the treatment mode. People who are pulled over for drug or alcohol addiction or use do not belong in a correctional facility. They belong in recovery treatment programs. All you're doing is locking them up. Yeah. You're not changing the mindset and you're not changing behavior. That's all about treatment and education. So, Talafofo Cottage Homes, the plan is renovation this summer. And if all goes well, by the next fiscal year, which starts in October, we'll have more recovery beds.
Well, thank you so much for that update. And,
Yeah, Therese.
Really, it's good to hear, because we all know that we have a really bad drug problem on Guam, and oftentimes we hear, there's a waiting list, there's, can't get help, and
right.
So to hear that, there are plans.
And sometimes there's a waiting list because sometimes people all come at one time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes there's nobody comes.
Right. It's good
So
to hear
it's just,
the.
when you asked, what's the census, like how many people do we get in? It really just depends.
Yeah.
I don't know what triggers it.
Sometimes, I mean,
Maybe
like you
people
said,
come
it's
to
it's a new year.
realization.
Maybe
It's a
it's
new
Lent,
year, maybe, or it's Lent. Maybe some people will do it because of Lent.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, whatever it is, we try to accommodate, because if we can't get them into recovery, like let's say there's a wait for a bed in one of our residential recovery programs, then at the very least, they're already in our system and getting group counseling, or, or education. So it's not a waste, because while they're waiting for that intensive residential bed program, they're going to be serviced by New Beginnings. So it's definitely not a waste. I mean, they eventually probably have to get to residential, but until that bed opens up. But, again, it's just timing, and I can't even tell you why certain times there's like a waiting list and certain times there's not a waiting list. It just depends when people come into Guam Behavioral Health and seek the help they need.
Therese, thank you
But
so
I just
much.
want to,
Yeah.
Thank you
Appreciate your
very
time.
much,
Yeah.
Chris and Sabrina. I really appreciate the time.
You're welcome
Every time
anytime.
you guys bring me in, it's just getting the word out there that we're here to hurt. We're here to help. That's what we're here for. I'm here to serve.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Therese. And keep in touch with
Thank
me.
you.
If you want to get any counselors or anybody on, just shoot me a message and we'll totally clear the way for them.
I appreciate that.
course.
And, again, we're looking for social work holding degree holders. So if you're a social worker out there that for whatever reason have not landed a job, or maybe has postponed seeking a job, and are interested in getting a job, please do contact my office and let's talk.
Thank you, Therese.
Stay safe.
Thank you so
Therese.
much. Have a very blessed and safe weekend. We're doing well, Guam, so thank you very much. We're very blessed. Thank you.
Besta.